Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to an early morning stream. One of the main questions that actually came up was, why do you work such weird hours? And when you're in the IT world, sometimes you sometimes you start your days at 1 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes you start your days out at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then sometimes you start your days out at 9, 10, 1 o'clock. It depends on when you get done with projects from the previous day, and also know when I'm not doing IT work or running the office or being on the road consulting. I got building maintenance. Plus, I have so many projects at home that I've been neglecting to even do because I've been so busy working. But that's beside the point. The main thing I wanted to get at was I finally got that custom build done. A lot of people are like, "Well, gee, you probably could have just went a lot faster on it." And well, a lot of it wasn't the problem putting it together. That was actually the fun and easy part. But the part that was real annoying was sitting there waiting for parts to come from Amazon. But due to the pandemic and the actually, to be more honest and accurate about it, the scamdemic put a damper on a lot of parts being shipped from overseas. So long story short, the original components that were in there in that computer was a gigabit motherboard with an Athlon processor and DDR3 crucial memory. And the guy that brought it in went from 2 gigs of or 4 gigs of RAM up to 16 gigs, and I suspected that the RAM upgrade did something to his computer because what it was doing was it had the 5 beep codes in that. So, and basically the power supply that he had in there was toast. What I mean by that is the bearings in the fan were pretty much shot. I probably could have rebuilt that power supply, but that was such a cheap power supply to begin with. So I went and we put a 600 watt in there instead of another 450. And the one that's in there now is a lot nicer. And if you want to, well, actually, that was only about a $60 power supply, but it's a nice one. You have a lot of different capabilities. For They got plenty of plugs for hard drives. So if you wanted to do like a RAID 5, you could. There's no SATA plugs on there that you could do RAID 5 and do up to 3 DVD players or multi-card readers or whatever you wanted. You have plenty of options, and they got even plenty of plugs for expansion cards. Like if you wanted to put a video card in there and you needed extra power, it's got plenty of different plugs on there, and it also has Molex connectors. So I can't complain. Power supply's quiet, doesn't make a lot of noise. So when originally I thought Gigabit was a reputable brand for motherboards, so I ordered another Gigabit or Gigabyte board, and I ordered Timex memory, and then it was also packaged with a 9th gen Intel Core i5, which that processor and that fan was a piece of junk, in my opinion. The fan was so chintzy And even though, like, when you harness it down to the board, it's just a bunch of freaking plastic clips that once you pop it down and then you use a flat blade screwdriver to, and it's like a loaded spring or something on the inside that's supposed to, and that was the most stupidest design and the cheapest excuse of a cooler that I've ever seen. And once I got that whole thing put together, nothing worked. It was all it was a defective board. So then I had to send it back, and graciously, Amazon, through my local Kohl's department store in the next town over, they've accepted Amazon returns. So I boxed everything up, boxed the processor back up, I boxed the RAM back up, and the CPU, and I took it to the department store, and they bought. All you had to do is just show them your shipping label or your return label that you printed off from Amazon. With that, they scanned it in, and then from there they boxed it up and they sent it. And then I got a refund. I ordered another board, another set of RAM and processor. And originally the guy came in because I thought I had everything ready to go, and it doesn't take long to put them things or put a custom build together. It's more or less waiting on parts and time. But long story short, I'm still actually waiting on the processor from China. And I'm not going to get into the whole heated argument I had with the customer. Actually, he was the one that started the heat. But partially knowing what I know now, I should have just hightailed it down to the next city, or down to Sheboygan, which is about 45 minutes south of here, or Green Bay, or Appleton, or Milwaukee, and just buy the stinking processor instead of sitting here waiting in a month and a half. Customer was frustrated. I was frustrated. Not with putting it together so much, but more or less the sitting there waiting for it and waiting and waiting and waiting. Because it's taking up space here, and I kind of need the extra space for other projects that I'm working on, and it's just he's irate and I'm irate, and it's just it's a non-win situation for both of us in that retrospect. But basically, so the other day went down, got it, paid for it, brought it back up here, put the thing together, and as we speak now, the computer's up and running and everything's working mechanically sound and beautifully. No problems. Everything works. Everything's working as it should. So, but now I'm kind of dreading actually having to meet with the person now. So I got nothing against them. It's kind of awkward knowing that there's better ways of doing things than how I did this particular project. But it's not that. It's not that I was slow and procrastinating on it. It's just there's so many other projects going on in and out of here, in between a lot of snowfalls that we've been getting. I kind of, and on top of that, I got to still manage to get a sleep schedule in at some point in time. You can't run 24 hours a day without sleep. Last couple of weeks, I've been running 2 days here, 2 days there. I no sleep, but eventually it catches up with you, and it's not a healthy thing. Heck, I haven't eaten dinner with my family probably within the last couple of weeks because I've been so busy. And people are thinking, well, gee, why don't you just have regular 9 to 5 hours, and then once 5 o'clock comes around, call it quits, and then tell people to bug off. And if you don't want to lose customers, and you want to stay on everybody's good side, and you want everybody's approval, you sort of got to kind of exert yourself and always be there waiting hand and foot, and always basically bowing down and being at their disposal all the time. If you want loyalty from your customers, you got to give them loyalty. It basically kind of applies to a pastor at a church, or where there's certain pastors that say, "Well, come Sunday and I'll help you," and then the people are, "Well, why can't you help me now?" And they just tell you, "Well, come Sunday at 11 o'clock," and they're like, "Well, why specifically does it have to be 11 o'clock? Why can't it be 10:59 or 10?" Well, it's the same thing with the IT world. People want service. You have to provide it to them when they want it, when they want it. And if you don't do that, you're basically blackballing yourself for failure by not bowing down. And if you get my gist here, if you're doing IT stuff, you always have to be available. You can't plan anything, can't do anything other than. And technically, you should actually carry an emergency phone on you, so that if they do have a problem, you're out and about somewhere, you drop what you're doing and you go help them. When you work like that, not only do you get loyalty, but you always have a promised income coming in. And yes, it is no life, but when you're young, you don't need vacation time. You don't need spare time. You can do that stuff when you get older. This kind of work, you'd run about 7 days a week if you're lucky. Uh, if you had enough clients in a week, theoretically, You could probably do about a 16-hour day doing IT work, depending on how many clientele. And then the factor is, you also got to think about how much it's going to cost, what you're going to charge per hour, what your overhead expenses, like utilities, rent, or mortgage. Um, and some of these that have house payments or car payments. And the thing that you also got to think about is a lot of going IT right now is between 70 and $90 an hour, 120 depending on who has what degrees and stuff like that. Even I don't even charge at high rates because I wouldn't get anybody. But since the cost of everything up is going up around here, even the rent, I'm getting to the point now where I can't afford to pay the rent anymore. I'm getting to the point that's when you got so many bills to pay and that and you're if you're running a business, if you're not making any money and you're actually losing money and you're actually spending more than you're making, it kind of tells you that you can already see the writing on the wall telling you that your business is gonna fold eventually. If you're a one man show or you're solo, that's one thing. If you lose it, you lose it. But if you got employees and that they're gonna be irate with you for losing their jobs, and I'm kind of lucky at this point because I'm kind of solo. It's hard to keep track of everything being solo, but yet it's kind of a blessing at the same time because you don't have to worry about paying for people's health insurance and payroll, and it's a difficult. I'm just surprised that I'm still actually open as an establishment with the way the finances are going right now. And when you order stuff from Amazon and it takes like 2-3 months to get here, and you're sitting there stalling people because you can't get. In a way, it's not really my fault that Amazon is late on delivery. I really shouldn't take the blame for Amazon's problems, but you you as the middleman still get blamed, and it's I don't know. You almost want to just throw your hands up and walk away from it all, but that's not the approach that you take either. But knowing what I know, if I do any more custom builds in the future, now I don't get a huge major request of those of custom builds, but when I do come through the door, usually when you got some people that they don't know what they want for a build, so you kind of sit down and ask them, okay, what are you going to use the computer for? You're just going to do web browsing and basic office stuff, or you're going to be playing games, or doing video editing, or are you going to be using it for doing CAD, or what do you plan on? And then you sit down and you research parts and you do your research. And of course, you want the customer to, because if you do stuff without their approval, chances are they're not going to buy if you don't exactly get it the way they want it. And then you try to give them the best prices possible. Try to keep your costs low, but sometimes it's hard to do that as well. I'm just I've been going since about probably noon yesterday. I'm gonna wrap it up here pretty quick. Head home, get some, catch up on a few Z's, and then probably go out and shovel some snow later, and then come back here and keep World War III from breaking out with certain customers. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. No, not really. Alrighty. Bless you all in Jesus' name. And take care. And I hope everything all goes well for everybody. We'll see you a little bit later.